guys? Welcome up. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Rocky, the place where I don't really know what I'm doing, but thanks to you all, we figured things out. Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, I'm really tired of playing, tired of wasting time. I took about a 2-week break after my last video. If you're not up to speed, pretty much my motor stopped working. I tore it down, replaced a bunch of different parts, and just as I'm finishing up on this motor, I came across a big issue. And it's not really a bad issue. I think it's a good bad issue, if that makes sense. As you may or may not know, this is the timing belt, and it's really important to have everything in time. You gotta have these 2 cam gears in time. You gotta have the main crankshaft pulley in time. But obviously, timing is very important to the engine. If your motor's out of time, man, it can cause a lot of damage, and you might have to just buy a whole new motor. Well, my motor is almost complete. You can see it's almost done, right? Pretty much the only thing that this motor is missing is the valve cover. But before installing that, I wanted to do a valve adjustment, which is very important to your motor. This motor has 4 pistons. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4 under the spark plugs, and each cylinder has 4 different valves. There's 2 exhaust valves right here and 2 intake valves right here. Now, I was able to successfully adjust 12 of the 16 valves, and it was a really weird issue because check this out. Doing a valve adjustment is pretty straightforward. All you do is break loose this locking nut right here that's surrounding the screw in the center. Once that nut is broken, you would loosen the screw to make your adjustment for the valve clearance. And to check the valve clearance, all you do is get a filler gauge, stick it between the camshaft and the rocker arm. Once you got the clearance, all you do is tighten the locking nut and you're good. Now, I was super careful when I disassembled the head and removed the valves, because I removed the valves one at a time to replace the valve stem seals. Also, the head is very symmetrical, so everything you install in one side, it's the same on the other side and all the way across. Even if I installed 1 or 2 things incorrectly, why would it affect the same exact intake valve in each cylinder? And that's when I finally realized that I never knew what the issue was with my motor to begin with, because again, all I did was take it apart, replace a bunch of parts, and just starting to put it all back together. So pretty much what I'm getting at, the only thing that would affect those 4 intake valves in each of the cylinder would be that somehow the engine jumped timing and that those 4 cylinders had gotten bent at the same time. Here's the intake side. It's these 4 valves, and they are on the same lobe of the camshaft right here. So that's the only thing that makes sense as to why those 4 valves are messed up. But the weird thing is, when you have bent valves, you usually have no compression at all. And I did do a compression test before pulling my motor. Each cylinder had about 40 to 60 psi, and so I'm thinking that the bent valves is so minimal that it still held some compression, and when I pulled it out individually, it wasn't enough for me to notice when I kind of just eyeballed it, you know? Now, I can't say that I'm 100% sure I know that I do have bent valves, but after considering all those factors, it just makes sense to me that those 4 valves are bent and that I just need to replace them. And so that's what we're doing today. I got 4 brand new valves. We're gonna take the motor apart, replace the valves. I got a valve lapper tool and valve lapping compound. I've never lapped valves before, but we're gonna make it happen. another moment of truth. Time to test my theory. Time to see if that valve is really bent. So right here is cylinder 1. I loosened that valve seat. See, I can take the spring out and all that. Yeah. Now let's see if this valve is bad. Oh. Woo. What do you think? Oh, I think I can see it. Can you? Just looking at it, it looks normal. However, if I put it on the side like this and just roll it, what do you think? The one on the right is the brand new one. One on the left is apparently the bent one. Well, after doing some YouTube research, it looked like it's gonna be a lot of work to clean up all these valves. So I'm not lazy, I just don't feel like doing all 16 valves. So I'm just gonna replace those 4 valves that I had an issue with. I'm gonna have them relapped and just send it. I mean, let's be real. What would you do? Huh? Nah, whatever. I mean, it's my motor, so shoot, man. If it don't work, I'll just have to take it back apart again. Guys, I just made a discovery. It's very important. I finally did something to verify my theory. Yeah? Well, I finally found a way to figure out how this new valve is different from this old valve that I think is bent. So these are the 4 intake valves that I just removed and are allegedly bent. And it wasn't until now that I figured out how to compare them to this brand new one. So I was thinking, if I stood them up side by side like this, it's really hard to measure the difference because the old one has some buildup on it. So of course it's gonna make it a little taller than the new one, right? And then I thought, you know what? How about I stand them on this end, because this end is clean. So they should both be the same height, right? So if I stand them next to each other side by side, this left one is the new one, right? This one on the right is the old one that I pulled out. You can see the very top, the one on the right is a little taller. This is one of the valves that I just removed. Here's another valve that I just removed. Again, look, it's a little taller. But then you might be thinking, maybe this new one is a little shorter because it's aftermarket and a different brand. Well, let me show you. This is another valve that I just pulled from the head, and this was one of the valves that were good, that I was able to make an adjustment on the valve clearance. So we're standing next to it. Look at that. Perfect, right? See? It lines perfectly up with this new one on the left. So this is a good valve from the head. I was able to do my valve adjustment with this one. And this is the bad valve from the head. Look, it's like a tiny bit taller. What the heck, man? Oh shoot. See that? Even if I change the angle up, like, bruh, it's not the way I'm holding this valve. So that just proves to me that, yo, my valves are, I wouldn't say bent, they look stretched. Like, you know, they're stretched out. They're a little taller for some reason. I guess that's kind of a form of being bent. Who knows, but at least I gathered evidence to prove my theory right. So those 4 valves I just pulled out, no good. We're gonna install 4 brand new ones, have them lapped, and get this over with. Yeah! Tired of this Prelude sitting in the garage and just chilling here, paying no rent, not doing no work for me, not taking me to work or nothing. What the heck, bruh? We need to get the motor back in, start driving it again every day. Yeah!